If a game is a series of interesting choices, then Pathologic 2 is a game. This sequel/remake/reimagining released in 2019 from Russian developer Pathologic, where a plague outbreak envelops a town and you have just 12 days to stop it before everyone is dead. If you've ever wanted to pick up Russian literature in the Steam sale, this is your moment. I cover survival horror games on this channel, and Pathologic 2 is about the horror of surviving and how far you'd be willing to go to stay alive. It's a game where everyone hates you and you stop a plague, so it's just like real life, except now I have a job. I've never seen a game where those who love it and those who recommend it are two separate circles, except for me, and when I'm done here, maybe you. Because I love Pathologic 2. And I cannot figure out why. There's just something about this first-person game set in and around a desert town. What is that? Anyway, it takes place in a town and the surrounding desert where two civilizations are vying to rule the area, and you'll have to navigate the complex factions that control society and decide the future of— seriously, what is that? And I realized what clicked so hard for me. I realized the structure, story, and world of Pathologic 2 bear a striking similarity to my favorite video game of all time, Fallout New Vegas. In this video, I'm going to show you how Pathologic 2's storytelling draws you into this world much like Fallout New Vegas does. And if you enjoy New Vegas, you should try Pathologic 2. Pathologic 1, which much of 2 is built on, released 5 years before Fallout New Vegas, so I'm not accusing Lodge or Obsidian of ripping each other off. Just pointing out that two games I love have many similarities. It's the perfect game for autistic masochists, and as a YouTuber, I feel uniquely qualified to talk about that. I'm going to go in-depth on the first 3 days of the game. I'm going to show footage from the entire campaign, but I won't show any story spoilers after day 3, so you can see just enough to decide if you want to try this for yourself. But be warned, this game is literally a Russian asset. One spring day, my girlfriend recommended a game that I'd never heard of. My office just decided we'd be working remotely for the next 2 weeks, so I dove into the world of Pathologic 2 for the first time. The month was March. And as COVID outbreaks began outside my window, the sandpest plague broke out in Pathologic 2. It gave me a welcome distraction from my beautiful city descending into Yarnum. But there was an unnerving symmetry between the game and real life that Lodge absolutely nailed. Am I saying Fallout New Vegas and Pathologic 2 are the same? No. Fallout New Vegas is a sci-fi Western RPG taking place in and around Las Vegas, Nevada, about 250 years in the future. But Pathologic 2 is a magical realist RPG set sometime in the mid-20th century in the Russian steppe. There's no skills or XP in Pathologic 2, you play as an established character. But if you really missed that, just imagine you have bonuses to medicine, survival, and lockpicking. Guns and ammo are pretty rare in Pathologic 2, but New Vegas takes place in America. Fallout rewards exploring its giant map, and the playable area is much smaller in Pathologic 2. But because using your time wisely is so important, the map doesn't need to be any bigger than it is. And there is no sex robot named Fisto in Pathologic 2. Wait, come back, but Fallout won't let you kill children. But one of these two games got you to click on this video, and chances are it wasn't Pathologic 2. So what is Pathologic 2, and why does it remind me so much of what I loved in Fallout New Vegas? Do you need to play Pathologic 1 to understand? No. In fact, if you've played neither game, start with 2. The original Pathologic found an audience in Russia in 2005, which was years before indie games were likely to get much attention at all. But it never really broke out in the US, due to a translation that you could legally say was in English, but you'd feel a little bad about yourself when you did it.
What?
This translation was later improved upon for the release of Pathologic Classic HD, with much of the English dialogue being recorded again. Like Fallout New Vegas, there is lore from the prior games in the franchise, so if you did play them, there's a couple of references you'll enjoy, but you can play Pathologic 2 fine without knowing what came before. The events of Pathologic 1 happened, but no one remembers them, because Pathologic 2 is a do-over. We open on day 12 backstage at the town theater, where the director tells us we're an actor in a play and this production is a flop. We plead for another chance, but there's none left to give. We exit and we're in the bad ending of Pathologic 1. The true ending. Canonically, in the first game, you failed. The military has taken over, executing the infected and preparing a bombardment to turn us all into dust, all to stop the sandpest, a plague that has decimated the townsfolk over the last 12 days. And everyone was counting on you to stop it. We plead with the Inquisitor sent by the Capitol and the military general to stop this, saying we found a cure, but we don't know how to mass produce it. But we are out of time. They freeze, and the director reappears to offer us another shot. One more chance to fix things in Pathologic 2, starting now. You wake at midnight 12 days ago. It's not much time, but it's enough. One of the most consistent compliments I've seen for Fallout New Vegas is that the world isn't designed to be your playground. Many modern RPGs, including Fallout 3 and 4, fall into a storytelling trap where the world is designed for the chosen one to bend it to their whims. It amplifies the power fantasy, but life does not work that way. The world isn't designed for any of us to succeed in. In Fallout New Vegas, you play as the Courier, a custom-built character where you have a personal objective to find the men who shot you and stole your cargo, which will ultimately entwine you in the larger conflict, a global objective: who should rule Vegas if Caesar's Legion attacks Hoover Dam for a second time. 4 years ago, Caesar's Legion attacked Hoover Dam, but the NCR, the New California Republic, managed to repel them. The Legion did not retreat and have been waiting for a second chance to take Hoover Dam, which produces enough electricity to power the whole region and would give anyone wielding that power the chance to rule it. But this world would still exist if the Courier never arrived. In Pathologic 2, you are not the main character. In fact, there is a main character, and it's not you. The original game featured 3 playable heroes, and they would cross paths with each other throughout their individual quests to stop the plague. You watch all 3 of them share why this should be their story, and you pick one to play as. The default character in Pathologic 1 is Daniel Dankovsky, also known as the Bachelor, a medical researcher from the capital trying to unlock the secret of immortality. As an outsider, the town's layout and culture are more freely explained to him, and he'll be hosted by the town's elite and issuing directives for everyone while you're out in the fields picking herbs. He's easily the most accessible of the 3 characters for new players, but he's such a smug bastard that he makes you root for the plague. There's also the Changeling, a young woman named Clara who is always nearby just before another district has an outbreak. She might be able to cure the plague, and she might be the one causing it. As the true outsider to this town, she was the least accessible and only unlocked once you've already beaten the game with someone else. All 3 characters from 1 were going to be included in 2, but when budgets and time ran short, Icepick Lodge made the call to release Pathologic 2 with 1 campaign and add the other 2 later as DLC. They decided that since players of the original would be most familiar with The Bachelor, the first campaign they would release in Pathologic 2 would be the Haruspex. As the Haruspex, you play as Artemy Burak, son of the town's only doctor. You grew up in the town, but you left 5 years ago to become a surgeon, and no one has seen you since. 2 weeks ago, you received a letter from your father asking you to come home immediately. But since the town is so remote that no passenger trains actually run there, here you are hiding in a cargo train all alone. Or so you think. This is the fellow traveler. Like Victor in New Vegas, he'll be popping up throughout your journey and probably knows more about you than he should. But later that day, you'll speak to the train's conductor who is certain that you were the only stowaway on board. You arrive just before dawn. Like Fallout New Vegas, your story begins with 3 men who want to kill you.
The game was rigged from the start.
But unlike Fallout New Vegas, you prevail. With half your health gone and an empty stomach, you limp into town where the locals stare, and the game often reminds you that in each district, no one cares about you. And you do not want people to care about you. Like Fallout New Vegas, you have a reputation in each region or with particular factions that affect how they speak to you, what prices you get in stores, and whether they attack you on sight. But in New Vegas, your reputation was entirely based on your own choices. In Pathologic 2, if you piss off someone with influence, they can tank your reputation for you. Time is critical in Pathologic 2, and how you spend yours will ultimately determine your success or failure. Each in-game day is roughly 2 hours, and outside of dialogue or special events, that clock is always ticking. This is the opposite of games like Skyrim, which give you an apocalyptic crisis to solve, and then put that on pause and wait for you to finish dicking around in the world. In Pathologic 2, some quest lines will expire if you don't trigger them. Some quests are only available at night, so when do you sleep? Some people will die if you ignore their quest markers. But on your first playthrough, you will not save everybody. By selecting some people to survive, you will ultimately select others not to. Because like in Fallout New Vegas, anyone can die. The game will go on, but any help those people might have offered just won't be available anymore. The game's quests will also take place in the city or the surrounding desert, although the town is laid out very differently than Vegas. Many of the town's districts are named after the parts of a bull, because the town's only industry is the, imposing slaughterhouse that's based on the outskirts of town, made out of an ancient pagan temple. You could say this town has a strange relationship with bulls, but that wouldn't be entirely correct. This town has a strange relationship with meat. Walking through the streets and talking to the locals is meant to be unsettling, and it is. Finally, a game that asks, what if Silent Hill was a town? You get reminders from the local tragedians who remind you to watch your hunger, thirst, and exhaustion meters, the same ones you have in hardcore mode in Fallout New Vegas, and that if you neglect them, your health will start to decay. You make it to your father's home, but a crowd of mourners is perched outside. Last night, your father was murdered. Like Fallout New Vegas, you have a personal goal, find who killed your father, which will entwine with your larger objective to stop the plague. But first, the people want blood, and their suspicions immediately fall on the kin. The kin are a tribe of nomadic people who lived out in the grasslands near where the town would eventually be built. Unlike the town, which is embroiled in politics and intrigue, the kin act as one, likening themselves to beasts, and claim they have a special relationship with the earth. The kin believe the earth was created by a giant mythical bull and that the earth is connected to everything, including humans. And cutting into the earth is desecration, so they resent the town for ever being built. Most of the kin resemble humans, but some are only part human. They still speak to us, like the super mutants or nightkin in the Fallout games, who are sometimes friendly and sometimes not. Over the years, their numbers began to dwindle, and the kin were hired to work in the town's slaughterhouse. So we have a town that mirrors modern civilization, a pseudo-democracy that doesn't do enough for its neediest citizens. And we have a desert tribe with customs that would horrify anyone outside of it. And they both feel entitled to the earth the town lives on, just like the NCR and Caesar's Legion. And don't forget, the symbol on Caesar's Legion's banners is a bull. But that resentment cuts both ways. The townspeople look down on the kin for being wicked and primitive, and you're caught in the middle. Your father was a leader in the kin, and your mother lived in town, so Artemy has one foot in both worlds. After your father's murder, the townsfolk convinced themselves that a demon disguised as a woman from the kin killed him, so the townspeople start rounding up kin women for the crime of existing. You plead with them to stop, but you find an angry mob burning a kin woman at the stake. They keep expecting the fire to reveal her demon form, but it never comes. This echoes the first real quest you receive in Fallout New Vegas, where the small town you woke up in is protecting a traitor from an angry mob of prisoners who want the traitor's head. You seek out your 3 childhood friends who are still in town. Lara, the daughter of a dead military captain who now lives alone in his big empty house, Grigory, who runs a gang of thieves in the warehouse district and goes by Bad Grief, and Ruben, your father's protege who blames you for your father's mysterious death. As the closest thing to the town's doctor now, Ruben has the ear of everyone in town, and he's out to sink your reputation. Now everyone says hello with their fists, the town hall wants you arrested, and you have to run from place to place before the next one burnt at the stake is you. So no one will trade with you, and you're starting to get hungry. But there's a second and much more important economy present in Pathologic 2 that you will need to survive. The children live in an alternate reality than we do. They play hopscotch while the infected are executed in the streets. They have their own warring gangs. While adults will only carry and desire practical items for trading, what children value is almost entirely random, so you can pick up a run-saving item for a pocket full of marbles in 2 matches. Which makes it sound like I'm recommending that you swindle children, but I'm actually insisting you swindle children. Bad Grief gives you shelter in his warehouse, but one of his goons was stabbed today, and you have to remove the lockpick shoved into his guts. You do the surgery tutorial and save his life, but the game reminds you that you don't have much money, but no one is home here, and you have a shiny new lockpick, which is basically money. And now we introduce my favorite way to fight the plague: crime. Going back to that first quest in Fallout New Vegas, a traitor is hiding in a small town. The traitor was attacked by a group of escaped prisoners, and the traitor got away. Now the escaped prisoners believe the town is hiding the traitor, which they are, but the townspeople refuse to give him up. Players have been trained to choose the most morally correct option in a binary choice because it almost always leads to a better result, but not in Fallout New Vegas. Side with the town people, and you'll get a good reputation with them and discounts at the store in a town you'll never set foot in again. But those prisoners? Oh yeah, they hate you now, and they'll menace you all throughout the map of this game's first act while you're still pretty underpowered. But if you side with the prisoners and take out the townsfolk, now the prisoners are your friends, and all those early game fights can be avoided, making the first act of the game way easier. And how do the people of Good Springs feel about this? Guess they moved. Fallout New Vegas reinforces that sometimes breaking the rules for your benefit is the wisest choice. In Pathologic 2, you make these choices constantly. You only have so many immunity boosters. Do you give them to any infected that you find? You might not have any left for yourself, and what good is a dead doctor? Antibiotics are a valuable trading item, but without treating the sick, they might die. How desperately hungry would you have to be to trade these away? You're summoned to meet the head of one of the town's 3 families, Big Vlad Olgimsky. Like the NCR NCR, Caesar's Legion, and Mr. House, the three entities trying to recruit you to help them rule Vegas, the three most powerful families in this town are the Kanes, who own all the real estate, the Sabarovs, who own the government, and the Olgimskis, who own the slaughterhouse and the cannery, giving them control of the town's industry. Like Fallout New Vegas, each of these powerful families in town will use you for their own needs. They'll insist that you protect their friends, and they'll lie to you to get what they want. And when they speak to you, characters talk in a stream of consciousness that doesn't match their on-screen dialogue, creating this mental friction where you're not sure what to follow.
Will it rain? Will it snow? Will it pass? I don't know.
If you've ever spoken to someone who is clearly thinking of something other than you, that's every conversation in Pathologic 2. But these three families are not the only ones who will seek you out. Like Fallout New Vegas, there are smaller factions all over town that also want your help. There's the Kin, there's the Solanahavs, the Dogheads, and the kids living in the Polyhedron, a giant looming tower that defies gravity and is very popular with children, and one short day from now, you'll have to decide its future. For good. Sorry, this game is a play, I couldn't help myself. Anyway, your father's house is an active crime scene because no one mourns the wicked. Because it's an active crime scene, you can't go inside, so you end the day by falling face first into your friend Laura's couch. Oh yeah, the plague won't even start until day 3. Day 2 is relentlessly ominous because we know what's in store for this place and we have to establish all the mechanics we'll need before the outbreak. Each new day in Pathologic 2 peels away a layer of safety. PT was a game where you walk through a looping hallway. On your first loop, there were some unsettling elements to experience, like a radio host describing a gruesome murder, a chandelier creaking in the ceiling, a bathroom door that can't be opened, but nothing that could actually harm you. However, starting a new loop peeled back that safety a little further each time. Lights that were on have gone dark. That radio host starts speaking to you. The bathroom door slides open and you realize you are not alone here, making every loop just a bit more terrifying than the last one. Fallout becomes a power fantasy as your character gains experience, but Pathologic 2 is constantly pushing back on you. Day 2 opens with massive price increases at every store because the cargo train supplying the town didn't arrive. So food, bandages, protective clothing, and medical supplies are much harder to afford. There are some less than legal establishments that might pay you well for used bandages, broken blades, or even stolen organs. And with high cost of living comes thieves. Muggers are prowling the town's streets, especially at night, looking for anyone who might have money or valuables on them, including you. As the plague drags on, they appear more often to smash you like a subscribe button, so you have to be armed if you want to stand your ground. If you don't catch the plague, you will catch these hands. When game critics describe difficulty, they often compare their subject to Dark Souls, as a standard for what a hard game is. From Software games are mechanically demanding, but anyone who's played them knows they aren't so much hard as they are strict. The people I know who bounced off of Souls games did that because they wanted to play it their way, which usually meant succeeding with minimal effort. These games aren't that difficult and can be rewarding if you learn the combat system and play them as intended. Pathologic 2 isn't mechanically demanding. The difficulty comes from managing your meters and making hard choices. Walking drains your hunger, so you want to take optimal routes going through town. Running drains your thirst. If you ignore your thirst and then you get jumped, you won't be able to outrun your attackers. Time awake drains your exhaustion. And this constant pressure to manage your levels while pushing yourself to solve this mystery is where the difficulty becomes part of the experience. But Pathologic 2 launched to middling reviews by critics who thought the difficulty was tuned too high. So Icepick Lodge added a surprisingly deep difficulty customization system, allowing players to tune their own experience while gently reminding them this is supposed to be challenging. Having finished the game twice, here's the sliders I used on my second playthrough. Do not come for me in the comments, I beat it on the real difficulty my first run, and it's up to you if the achievement is worth it. But the only meter I think is overtuned is hunger. Towards the end, I had been starving for over a week and got my hands on a military ration. I devoured well over 1,000 calories, and an in-game hour later, I was starving again. I may not cure the plague, but I will win the Hunger Games. On the intended difficulty, it feels like this is a game about feeding yourself first and curing a plague second.
Here's some advice. Actually, the only advice that matters. Try not to die. Ever.
If you die, and you will, you wake up back at the theater. And fittingly, when you return here, the director scolds you, the player, for dying, and punishes you. Sometimes he'll just taunt you. Sometimes he'll decrease your maximum stats and make the game harder. In any other game, you could reload and erase your mistake, but deaths in Pathologic 2 cannot be undone. So you can reload, but your punishment will still be there. Consequences aren't always so obvious. A few deaths in, the director tells you that you can't hug anyone anymore. Fine, whatever, it's not a game about hugging. Unless you follow a specific questline many hours later and your friend asks you for a hug and you can't. But if you die 7 times, the fellow traveler appears and offers you a deal. If you accept, he'll restore your missing stats and you won't have any penalties for death for the rest of the game. But it will cost you something later. He won't tell you what it is. Maybe you'll care, maybe you won't. I'll give you one piece of advice. These games can be rewarding if you play them as intended. Your reward for surviving the first day is attending your father's funeral. The kin are here, and they want you to take on your father's legacy as a Menkyu, a leader in the kin, someone who is allowed to cut bodies because they know the lines. The lines are the spiritual connection to everything, from the horizon to the herbs that grow to the anatomies of living things, that the kin can sense, but normies cannot. Your father knew the lines and was revered amongst the kin for it, and now without him, they're looking to you. If you accept, they'll give you a list of children your father thought were the future of the town, and now it's your job to protect them. You get access to a warehouse your father was renting as your new home base. One of the children you're supposed to protect is here, and you restore your father's equipment to let us brew tinctures and learn how to treat the sick. According to the kin's medicine, the body has 3 layers: the bones, the blood, and the nerves, and a sick patient's infection will manifest in one of those 3 layers for you to treat. First, you lower the patient's pain to get an accurate reading, usually through painkillers. Then you test with tinctures to see which layer the infection is presenting in. Once you've locked in, you give the patient an antibiotic based on that layer to lower their infection. That's good to know, but too bad there's no sick people around here. What started off as a normal day is about to be so much worse. There was an accident at the factory and black soot was released into the air. Shortly after, people began getting sick. First, it was one of the children in the warehouses. Now you're summoned to the town hall to learn there is an entire district infected with a new plague. The Bachelor keeps trying to recruit you to be his assistant, and I swear this man is the inspiration for piñatas. The plague will infect new districts every day. You're given a new stat called immunity, yay, that will slowly drop if you're in infected territory or if sick people get too close. If you have protective gear on or you pop some immunity boosters, you might be okay, but the plague will come flying down the sidewalk in a black mass, and sometimes block passageways and make you choose between taking a hit to your immunity or finding another way around. This game will make you miss lockdowns. The plague works like Mr. X in the Resident Evil 2 remake. Before he shows up, you work your way through the Raccoon City Police Department, learning the map and clearing optimal routes so you can easily zip from goal to goal. But when Mr. X arrives, he is a walking brick wall set on destroying your face. And even if you spend most of your ammo to stop him, you'll only knock him down for a few seconds. The smarter move is to run. But now your plans are out the window, as escaping him might send you into dangerous territory or divert you far off course. If the plague is onto you in Pathologic 2, you might need to abandon your plan and improvise to avoid it. Because if your immunity stat drops to 0, congratulations, you're infected. You do not want to be infected. You can treat yourself as best you can, but now you have a stat that is actively trying to kill you. And if it maxes out, it will. But before that, the plague will lecture you. That's right, the plague is a character with lines and everything, and it does not want to be stopped. And it will taunt you as it devours your immune system. But you aren't the only concern. The other characters live in their respective districts, and they can get infected too. At the end of the day, a dice roll will determine whether characters based in an infected district will catch the plague. By boosting their immune systems that day, you give them better odds of survival, but you cannot guarantee it. If they get lucky, the plague moves on to a new district and they're safe for now. If they catch it, their survival will depend on whether you treat them with tinctures and antibiotics while you work on a cure. Each night, you get another dice roll to find out whether your subject survives. If they do, the infection rises and their odds tomorrow will be worse. But you get to see the results of your work. I saved 3 people and killed 47, but every treatment is a chance to test the effects of your new concoctions. As you fix your father's equipment and get access to the organs of the infected, you can brew new variants and get one step closer to a cure. But not everyone sees the plague as a bad thing. The kin have been biding their time, watching their brethren die off and seeing the town thrive while they wait for their chance to take it back. And you, with one foot in each society, will have to decide, once the dust settles, who should rule the town, just like you have to decide in Fallout New Vegas. I could keep pointing out similarities, but we'd get deeper into spoilers. I could bring up the surface level similarities in the gameplay, from the reused NPC models, constantly repairing your gear, looting everything you get your hands on, jank. But if you're a fan of the story design in Fallout New Vegas and you've made it this far, you might really, air quotes, enjoy Pathologic 2. Instead of putting out the Bachelor's campaign as DLC for Pathologic 2, the Bachelor's route will be releasing sometime soon as Pathologic 3, with fresh mechanics, a graphical upgrade, and a completely new point of view on the story. It's a great time to give Pathologic 2 a shot now. There is so much great world building in Pathologic 2 that I didn't have time to get to. So if you need more convincing, other creators have made some excellent deep dive videos on Pathologic 2, and I'll link a few of my favorites below. If you like this video, please click on that like button. It really does help me share this video with more people. And click on subscribe so you can catch the next one too. Thanks and have a great day.